So in today's video, I'm going to share how to increase self-esteem and start loving yourself. Because when you feel good about yourself, life is easier and you actually have a lot healthier relationships with other people. But first, if you're new, my name's Michelle Ferris. I'm a psychotherapist and I love helping people create relationships that work. So what is self-esteem? It's basically the ability to love and accept who you are, warts and all. Healthy self-esteem means that you're no better than or less than anyone else. You are equal to, and you deserve that. You deserve to actually feel good about yourself. But if you're from a dysfunctional family, you might not have learned how to do that. And that's what I'm going to show you in this really simple 5-step process. You're going to learn how to increase your self-esteem. So the first one is I want you to embrace what's unique about you. And think about it, because everybody has something unique. We're all different, and I want you to really embrace that. What are those traits, whether it's a sense of humor, compassion, feeling like you're a great leader? What are those things that make you you? Because that's part of healthy self-esteem, is to look at who you are as a person and how you can start to really appreciate that. Because otherwise what we do is we end up looking outside of ourselves for our self-esteem, and that doesn't really work, because that means our self-esteem isn't something we can control. And if we can do it ourselves, which is what you're going to learn here, that's something you can do. So by embracing what's unique about you, that's going to help you increase your self-esteem. Now, if you already know what you like about yourself, say me too in the comments. That's going to really help you increase your self-esteem. The next way to increase self-esteem and start loving yourself is to embrace your flaws. I know that might sound counterintuitive, but here's what I mean. Nobody's perfect. No matter what you see on social media and compare yourself to other people, everybody has their flaws. So why not embrace them? Why not say, you know what, these are mine? This is a huge part of increasing your self-esteem, because part of what we do when we try to feel good about ourselves is we kind of ignore what we don't like about ourselves. And we have some shame or embarrassment around certain traits. But part of healthy self-esteem is embracing all of it. So I'm going to tell you a quick story. A couple of years ago, I have a house in Tahoe and I rented it, and I double booked Christmas. And I was freaking out. And so, of course, I got another house for this other family, spent a lot of money, only to realize an hour later that I had not double booked them. I had misread my calendar, and I couldn't believe it. But it was such a gift, because instead of plummeting into shame, I knew that's my flaw. One of my flaws is that I'm not very good with details. And this was just another really big example of that. As much as that hurt, and it did, I didn't really beat myself up over it. Maybe I did for a couple of hours, but I came out of it quickly, because I knew that that's just a part of my nature, and that's okay. So what if you were to look at your flaws and say, you know what, this is who I am, and it's okay, because everybody else has flaws too. It's not something we're ever going to be able to minimize or get rid of entirely. And that's part of healthy self-esteem, is to be able to accept the good, the bad, and the ugly within yourself. So another aspect of this is, when you make a mistake, don't beat yourself up. Treat yourself like you would a friend. If a friend made a mistake, you probably wouldn't be mean or negative about it. You'd probably say, oh, that's okay. I know you tried your best. That's the same voice I want you to say to yourself, because that's how we build self-esteem, is by accepting ourselves exactly who we are. Now, sometimes we may feel like, oh, isn't that conceited, or doesn't that mean I'm being self-centered? No, it doesn't. Healthy self-esteem means that you can actually appreciate your own unique traits too. Like for me, it was my giving nature. It's also my generosity. I like that about me, and I can celebrate that, because the older I get, the more I understand how important that is. Now, let's be honest. I'm sure there's some things that you really like about yourself, but maybe you don't say it out loud because you think it might appear self-centered or selfish or arrogant, but it's not. Healthy self-esteem is about embracing what you like about you, even if nobody else has seen it yet, because that's your uniqueness that you're bringing to the world. And we want to celebrate that. And in celebrating that, you're actually increasing your self-esteem, and it's going to be much easier to start loving yourself. This also is going to help you attract healthier people, because as your self-esteem grows and increases, you're going to start attracting other people that have healthier self-esteem too. And that's going to make a huge difference in your relationships. The next way to increase your self-esteem is to embrace why other people love you. There's probably 2 or 3 core traits that you have had compliments on from other people, especially loved ones. I want you to write those down because those are also traits you can celebrate within yourself. Because sometimes when people compliment us, we're not necessarily aware of all of our gifts or all of our positive traits, especially if you come from a dysfunctional family where they weren't recognized. So I want you to just write down right now, what are some of those compliments you get over and over again? Because I guarantee those are probably going to be traits that you can celebrate and use to increase your self-esteem. So the last way to increase your self-esteem is super important. I want you to embrace positive self-talk. And what I mean by that is all of us have a negative dialogue going on inside our heads. It's called negative self-talk. And it's just those internal thoughts that we never share out loud with anyone else, but they're there. And what happens is when we don't realize when they're negative, they can really play havoc with our mood. So for instance, when I first started my recovery, I had no idea how negative I was. I knew I was negative, but I had no idea how much until I started paying attention to it. And I started listening to that voice, beating myself up whenever I made a mistake, or constantly criticizing myself and comparing myself to others and feeling like I could never measure up. That voice went on 24/7, as it does for all of us. So the goal here to increase your self-esteem is to create a positive self-talk. So what are those soothing messages you can start saying to yourself right now? Like everything is going to be okay, or you are enough. You are perfect exactly as you are. You're a kind person. You're a loving person. You have a big heart. What are those statements that you can start to tell yourself? Because that's how you can increase your self-esteem from the inside out. Another way you can do this is to use 12-step sayings like this too shall pass, one day at a time, because another aspect of positive self-talk is what's called self-soothing statements. Statements where if you're stressed, if things are not going well, or you're in a crisis, you can rely on those statements to help calm you. So one that I use the most and my clients like is everything is going to be okay. Because eventually everything is. And we have to learn to trust that even when bad things happen, you are ultimately going to be okay. So what I want you to do is write down 2 or 3 positive self-talk statements that you can use to increase your self-esteem. Because when you can control that voice in your head, your self-esteem is going to skyrocket. So the next thing I want you to do is go watch my video on changing negative thoughts, because that's your next step. Thanks so much.